Okay, I guess we're a small group at the moment. We're going to have a few people sign in, but welcome to the February 16th, 2021 meeting of the Citizens Traffic Commission. How is everyone doing?
Doing good.
Well,
Expecting more snow.
That's good. I hear we're supposed to get more snow on Thursday. Is that correct?
A lot of it melted today on my driveway.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we have quite a mess out here. The guy that delivers fuel says he can't come up the driveway.
oh dear.
So we may be running out of heat anytime soon, but I was finally I'm able to get out our back lane onto Creamery Road, but I guess this guy only comes in the front lane, and even though pickup trucks and so forth have been able to get through, he says he can't get in. But other than that, everything's okay.
I lost my cell phone. I was walking in the woods over by St. John's. I think it's St. John's over by the, middle schools. And I think that's where I dropped it. And it was the day it snowed. It started snowing. And I'm waiting for the snow to melt enough that I can find I had a face thing on, and I have the phone in that, and I don't know. I think I'm going to probably have to get a new one before I find the old one. Yeah, because I guess it's going to melt entirely, completely for a while.
Yeah,
that's my.
Okay, well let's get started. I guess, Catherine, you're the only one with updates since Paula and Scott are not here. So do you have any updates for us?
Do you want me to give my report? Yeah. So, there were a couple of planning commission meetings. The one on January 25th, the Cricket Preserve team came in and did a presentation. I guess it's, they're looking for the Planning Commission to approve their application or rather recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve their preliminary final plans. So a couple of interesting things that it concerns us, or at least that we would be interested in, that pedestrian connection between the retail side of Cricket Preserve and that office complex to the north. We talked about doing that, and they are providing that connection. They're also looking at a vehicular connection. I know, Ginny, we had talked about that, like as, another access.
Yes.
To get off. So they're looking into, and I was surprised to hear them say they're looking into that. And they talked about the number of parking spaces. I know we had some concern about whether there is enough parking spaces for Wegmans, and they said for a Wegman of the size, I think they need like 575, and they're providing 576 spaces. So they seem to think that was, sufficient number for the Wegmans store. They also talked about the pedestrian path that goes over that goes on the bridge over I-295, so connecting Edgewood Village and Cricket Preserve. They had some discussions with PennDOT, and initially they thought they were just going to provide like a flexible buffer between the path and the traffic lanes, but PennDOT is looking for a more permanent barrier, like a concrete barrier, to separate the pedestrians from the traffic lanes. So I guess they'll, since that's a PennDOT bridge, they'll have to provide whatever will satisfy PennDOT. Just looking through my
I'm glad to
notes
hear
here.
that. 'Cause
Sorry?
I said I'm glad to hear that that's the position PennDOT is taking, because I think that's not the widest bridge in the world, and for safety reasons,
Yeah. And it's pretty standard for PennDOT to require something like that. You know, if we're doing a new bridge, we definitely have to provide a concrete barrier. But this being a rehabilitation to put the path in, maybe PennDOT will allow some, a waiver, but it seems like they want a more, they call it a Jersey style concrete barrier. So I guess it's pretty standard. The traffic engineer actually did do a traffic count at the Shady Brook light show. And I was surprised. Yeah, because, we've been talking about that too. Like, how do you know that your signalized intersection will work appropriately if you don't know, if you haven't taken into account the amount of traffic that is generated during the light show. So they did do a traffic count on a Friday evening and a Saturday evening. They did do, yeah. In December, yeah. One of the weekends in December. So during the light show, I think they said there were like 1,500 vehicles that they counted. But they did talk with Lower Makefield Police and got the recommended improvements that the police talked to them about. So they are, considering that. So I'm happy to hear that they reach out to the police and, ask the police about these improvements, particularly into Shady Brook for the light show, because right now the police are out there. Go ahead, Ginny.
I was just John wanted to say something, so if you could.
Okay. I was going to say something that Shady Brook Farms did this year that helped with traffic significantly was they have scheduled time slots for ticketing. And that worked extraordinarily well to manage traffic into the light show and allow them to make sure that they didn't have crowds at certain times when people were most engaged. It also worked well for Shady Brook Farms in that they were able to pre-sell all that stuff, collect all the money, and it made it easier.
Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Hi.
Hi, Sue.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah. So, John, did they sell tickets because of COVID or?
They sold tickets online, yeah, because they wanted to minimize interactions between people buying tickets. So you could buy tickets online, you registered online, paid for the tickets, and you had a specific time slot. And that time slot allowed you to make sure you were going to be there at that time slot so that you wouldn't have everybody coming at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. on a Saturday, because that's when it's a popular time. And it really helped to manage the traffic for the light show this year. And it worked really well from a guest perspective. My understanding is because there were happier people. You weren't waiting in long a line to get to the light show. And Shady Brook was able to, build a registered user base that, they can talk to them about other events that are occurring there. So I thought that was particularly helpful in managing traffic this time around. And that is a necessary, adjustment. However, the Prickett proposal works out.
Yeah. So hopefully going forward, even when, we have a handle on the pandemic, this will change the way that they run the light show. I think it's certainly more organized than just, everyone showing up at the same time and having to wait in these long lines and feeling the pressure to keep moving forward because there's someone behind you. I might want to take a little longer time to look at the lights, but I can't because there's a person right behind me that wanting me to move forward.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that driving on the bypass a couple of times. I was on the bypass, when it was turning dark, and I was surprised that I wasn't stuck. And I thought maybe it was because of COVID, but sounds like it was more because of this ticketing. Did you get any sense, John, from them in terms of volume this year, if it was down significantly with the.
I didn't ask that question. I don't remember the exact number, but I was thinking it was like 30 to 50,000 or something like that over the total period of people. I'm not I don't recall the exact number, but that's kind of gives you a rough idea. If it were 1,500 on a peak night on a Saturday, right? That bodes, that seems plausible that it could be that, that total amount over that time period.
Okay. So back to you, Catherine. Did this traffic study in any way alter?
They did not
their
say. They didn't say. They just said that, they did go out there. I imagine that they would, put that number into their final analysis. I mean, they have it, so they might as well use it. And another thing that we had talked about, Ginny, where, we were concerned that the offsite improvements wouldn't be in, and then Wegmans open and you don't have the offsite improvement. But according to the developer, when they file something called a unilateral declaration in Doylestown, and so it's a binding agreement that they need to have those offsite improvements done, and the project cannot go forward, without these offsite improvements. And the traffic engineer for the developer, made a commitment that the offsite improvements will be completed before the Wegmans is open. So that's what they said at the meeting. So that was, I know we had said something about maybe, putting a statement or having a statement added, saying that they can't open Wegmans, without those offsite traffic improvements completed. But they developers seem to be, pretty committed to that. And then so with the thing that they file in Doylestown, I think it pretty much holds them to that.
This is the first I've heard that term, universal declaration.
Yeah, so unilateral declaration. I'm not sure what that is, but that's what they said. They filed a unilateral declaration at the courthouse in Doylestown, and that apparently is binding.
Would they send a copy to the township, I assume?
It's probably a public document. You could probably get it if they filed it with the courthouse.
Have you heard of that before?
Are you aware of that document, John?
Yeah, I'm aware that they filed it as a restriction on the, sort of like a deed restriction. I don't have the document. I haven't seen it. And I'm certainly, regardless of where you stand, I'm pleased that is part of the proposal. It also would be in the Saldo agreement that, that they would have to have completed those things before they would be allowed to be open. So there'll be tomorrow there's going to be an informational meeting where the developers are going to be presenting to the board preliminarily, informationally. You don't want to call it preliminary final approval, which is they will probably seek that in the next month, just a heads up. But they will be presenting the project, the status of the project. The Planning Commission did vote to approve with restrictions. So they, some of the things the developer asked for, they said no to. And my hope is that the developer won't be asking for those again. Specifically, the developer was looking to get out from under the tree ordinance and fees associated with that. And as it relates to the traffic improvements, well, I'm happy that they're required, and they said at the Planning Commission that they plan to make those that they're required by their tenant, the proposed tenant is Wegmans, to make those traffic improvements. They have also said that they are looking to get a multimodal grant from the state for that. And I have some reservations about that because that could potentially take the place of other multimodal traffic improvements within Lower Makefield that we would like to make. And we already have multimodal grant, applications in right now. So That's my concern with that. So it's not necessarily that I'm concerned that the improvements won't be done, but that they may be done at the expense of other traffic improvements within the township.
Yeah, they did mention
Who said
that.
they would seek that grant? Who is saying they would go for the multimodal grant?
It would be the state. So it would be PennDOT.
Oh, the developer would. Yeah, I saw that in their one of the documents I was reading, that this money, these millions of dollars, part of it is based on getting a grant.
Well, no, they've said that they will build it regardless of getting the grant or not.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where the rub is. It's sort of like, you can't say, okay, I'm going to build this, and now I'd like the state to subsidize me, for the traffic improvements I've already agreed to make. It's not necessarily fair to other traffic projects in the township.
So what do you do with that? We hear the dilemma. Where do you go?
I wouldn't support state funding of that. I'm just one supervisor.
Is that something that all the supervisors get to weigh in on?
Yes. They can decide whether they want to support the request or not. However, the developer could go separate from the township to request it. So it's not a guarantee if the township said, no, we don't want that they, could go that way.
Catherine, anything else on?
No, that's it. They denied the tree waiver. They like John said, they wanted to get out from, having to plant more trees or pay into a fund. So they're still fighting that. But the Planning Commission, denied that waiver. So, but I guess they can always appeal higher, right?
Right. And any waivers that the Planning Commission denied that are traffic related?
No, because the developers said that they got all the comments and they will comply. They look at the comments, so they'll comply with the comments. So,
okay.
Yeah.
With the traffic engineer's comments, you mean?
I think they mentioned several different people. They talk about the Bucks County Planning Commission. They talk about the EAC. They talk about Remington and Vernick. So, and they did. I suppose that includes SAVE as well. The comments from SAVE. But I think some of those the offsite traffic improvements that depends a lot on PennDOT, because they're working through that process with PennDOT to get the approval.
Mm-hmm. And today I sent out, Jim Majewski had sent me a link to some of the newer documents, so you should have that now. One of the things that includes in those files is the developer's response to PennDOT's, let me see if I get this right. The developer applied for a highway occupancy permit, and then PennDOT got back to them about that, and then they sent a letter to PennDOT, going through all the points. So that's part of the documents that I sent out, or the link to the documents that I sent out today, so that everybody can take a look at that.
So those
I'm not sure exactly which.
There are the responses by the developer to PennDOT comments.
Responses from the developer's traffic engineer to PennDOT. Yes.
Okay.
So I'd be interested, if we kind of look and see what's there, and if there's anything that's not there that we, want to look at. But there's quite a few files in that. If you go to that link, there's quite a few files in there to look at.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Anything else, Catherine?
And there was an item on the agenda for like the meeting. I think it was last week or might have been last week or the week before. They were going to talk about the amendment to the ordinance, but they didn't discuss that at the meeting. They said they were not ready to discuss it yet.
The amendment to what ordinance?
I guess it's, the township ordinance, like they will have different, I guess the last time they looked at it, was a while ago. It had not been updated for a while. So they were going to look through it and see what needs to be updated. I think a lot of it might have to do with parking because, there will be more of these kind of mixed use development maybe coming along, after Prickett.
Oh, so when you talk about an amendment, you're not talking specific to Prickett. You're talking that general.
Not Prickett, just general township ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the zoning hearing board, they didn't have a lot in the last two meetings. They did have that special meeting for the group of, maybe it's an individual of 3 that were challenging the overlay district. But the zoning hearing board deemed that they have no standing because they did not suffer a unique adverse effect than anybody else. So like the neighbor next to them would have the same adverse effect. So they were not unique in that respect. And they did not, suffer more than anybody else, or they're not going to be suffering more than anybody else. So they ruled that they had no standing. So that case was dismissed. The objection or the challenge was dismissed.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on Prickett's at the moment? It sounds like tomorrow night's meeting would be a good idea, either watching it live or watching it later to see this presentation by the informational presentation by the developer on Prickett's preserve. Okay, moving on to number 2, Regency at Yardley. And just by way of background again, this is regarding citizens' complaints about Robert Sugarman Way, which is that stretch of Big Oak Road between Oxford Valley Road and the bridge by the CBS over there. I had a conversation with Mr. Nemiroff, who is on their, I guess, Regency. They formed some sort of traffic committee. And in the conversation, I kind of gave him some of the background of the property and, going back to Matrix and Bellmead and the whole big box, and mainly to get across the point that the settlement agreement that was made in 2006 restricted what the township could and could not do in terms of requiring traffic improvements. So I kind of gave him the background on that, and then he asked to see if he could. He himself is an attorney. I don't know what kind of attorney. He asked to see the settlement agreement itself, and so John got that to us, and I sent it to him. And he said rather than them coming to this meeting, they'd rather look over the settlement agreement and then be more able to ask questions at our next meeting or the one following. So we had a very, very good conversation, and he understands that getting a traffic signal, for example, at where the development comes out onto Big Oak is a long shot, and why it is, and so forth and so on. But basically they want to do their homework first, and then they want to come back and ask us some questions. John, have you had a chance to talk to the traffic engineer at all about this, or?
No, not since last month. We talked about it. I think it was. It might have been an open session, which prompted some of the follow-up. So I think that's where we talked about it last time. But I have not since then. Interesting twist on that agreement, the settlement agreement was negotiated with a different solicitor. So this is the email I forwarded you to. There was a question or dispute about an interpretation of it. And we actually got the original solicitor. So if there is questions about that on that particular, because I think the person thought I was going to had some sort of axe to grind, and why I'm like, no, it's however the agreement's written. I don't decide that. Right. So, but yeah, we could, if there's something of an interpretation that person's available, if necessary, if there's a read or anything like that. There's other people who really know that agreement well too. Besides the folks that were part of the negotiation team, it had a lot of different people as part of it. And they have more institutional memory about this than necessarily I would offhand. So it's important to bring those folks in when we get, if there's some issue that needs to be brought up, because they remember all the background around it.
Right. And I had forgotten till you sent me that there had been an addendum to it in 2017. I just quickly looked through the addendum, and it looks like that only related to changing the makeup of some of the housing. It didn't really have anything to do with, traffic improvements. And I think that was done around the time that some of you may remember the Dunkin' Donuts proposal had come up, and we had asked for improvements, and we were told that, the agreement precluded that. Is there any proposal? I understand now we have two buildings there. I'm talking about the office buildings now. There's
Right.
two buildings there. Is anything going on with that third piece of property, or is that still one on the corner where they were they had been asking for a
I'd have to go back. There won't be a drive-through.
right, yeah.
I forget. I have to go look
We
that up.
definitely have a good personality on that drive-through, I tell you. I mean, the traffic part of me is like, no way, but the Dunkin' Donuts part of me is like, yes.
What is their thinking in terms of timing on involving the traffic engineer? Once the Regency folks get back with having done their homework and with their questions?
That's a good question. Because they definitely want to, dig into this and see if there's something that can be done. But I'm not certain. I think they would like to participate in the next meeting, but I'll have to find out from him. But yeah, John, I don't know what your thinking is on this in terms of involving the engineer, not knowing what they're going to come up with yet.
Yeah, and I will say that there was discussion in the past about paths in front of what was then to be the Dunkin' Donuts and connections there, so that people could cross Robert Sugarman Way to get to the clubhouse and those sorts of things. I have not. That fell by the wayside for a while. There was initially a whole passionate group within Regency that were looking for compromises and changes, and then I forget why that died down. But the people that live within Regency are a very active group. And we've had to deal with a lot of unique issues related to Regency over the years. I don't know if many people don't remember the mold issue.
I
which
do.
is really vexing. I'm like, and we have been investing a lot of time and money to run that one down and figure that one out, which was, interesting. But not, and now that obviously that's a good thing, and that we're dealing with light issues related to the one development that's right next to it, the Caddis development, and making sure that the light pollution's resolved. So, the Regency's have been a complex and very long development in terms of the township and the things we've had to deal with. And I suspect we still have a lot more to go on that.
One thing that I apologize if this has already been told to me and I forgot about it, but there was, back when the first agreement, and it's in the first agreement, about there being some money in escrow for some kind of pavilion.
Yeah.
For the residents.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know whatever happened with that?
Yeah, because that was part of the reason why we had to go get back the other. There is a design for it. I'm trying to think of what the end result was on that. I think it's eventually going to get built on. Gosh, I forget. I'm gonna have to go back, and I'm sorry for. I have limited mental shelf space on some.
We're not going to hold you to that high standard. You have to remember everything. Thing. It's okay.
But that was
you can get back to us.
Yeah. That was part of the reason why we had to bring in the other person to review that, because there was an option. Could we get out from having that pavilion and other stuff? There are drawings for the pavilion and a walking path around it. So
Now, was that pavilion going to be on the other side of Big Oak, or on the original side of where the original Regency development is?
It'd be on the other side.
On the other side.
Behind the, PNC and CVS and all that stuff.
Okay. Because the last time I had a conversation with Gary Cruzan, he had brought up the possibility of, instead of that being a pavilion, it being overflow parking for Regency. But I didn't know if, that, again, going back to the agreement, whether those funds could be spent for something like that. But a while back, we had some issues with the parking situation with Regency, because the lanes are narrow, and if you get, a plumbing truck or whatever, there's, you're down to one lane. So that was one of the things he had thrown out there, but I couldn't remember exactly. I remembered that there was money that was supposed to be set aside, and I just couldn't remember if anything ever happened to it. And looking at the drawings that came along with the agreement, I noticed that there's 5 acres of open space on Old Oxford Valley Road on the other side, on the original side.
That's where the pavilion would be.
Oh, okay. Now I'm confused, because that's on the, I forget what it is. It's at the north side of Big Oak toward Lower Makefield. That's where the 5 acres of open space is, but then maybe there's open space on the other side, the CVS side, for lack of a better.
Okay.
I was just wondering if that's being used. I haven't been back there and seen if that 5 acres is being used, or if it's just open space and they're not doing anything with it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
It's the 5-acre open space at the intersection of Big Oak Road and Old Oxford Valley Road. That's where the pavilion is, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. So it's not on the other side of Big Oak Road.
Yeah.
It's behind the CVS complex.
Yeah.
So there's no open space over there anymore. Then the development that's behind there, that goes right up to, where Old Oxford Valley Road continues behind CVS and the Shell station.
I'm trying to see if I can pull up the drawings for it, if I can find it. I don't. Yeah, it was November of 2018. Oh, wait. Well, I am seeing the proposed sidewalk in front of the Dunkin' Donuts and daycare, but It's a while ago, but yeah, I'm not finding the drawings.
Okay. Well, it's just, it's not something right now, but when we get into discussion, when we get into talking with the residents, I was just curious of what the status of that was. And
yeah, let me send, I can send the drawings or what the concept plan for that. No, I guess I can't send it over. Can't share stuff here. I'll just send it in an email.
okay, thanks. Anything else traffic related, John, that the board is dealing with that we should know about? I know those two. I think the bids for those traffic improvements at Big Oak and Makefield and the coordinating, those were supposed to go out in January for the traffic signal.
Yeah, in tomorrow's agenda, we do have a fix for a traffic signal on, is it Woodside and Lindenhurst?
Yeah, that's on the agenda.
That is on there. Is there anything else traffic related? There may be some others, nothing, I don't recall anything else significant, but I could be.
Okay.
Of course, we've decided I have brain fog today, or at least my mental shelf space isn't where it should be.
Does anyone else have any other business or anything they'd like to bring up?
Not tonight.
Sue?
Not tonight, no.
Not tonight. Okay. I don't know when our next meeting, I haven't gotten the schedule yet, when our March meeting will be. So I will let you know. I'm told that Barbara has retired, Barbara Ellison, who's in the township manager secretary. So now we're dealing with Katie McVan, Jean on minutes and that sort of thing. I'm sending them to Katie now.
Right.
So, and then Monica Tierney is also involved somehow. But Barbara's not there anymore. Okay.
I'll miss her. She was nice to work with over the years.
Yes, she was really nice to work with.
Was that, John, was that kind of sudden, her leaving? Or
I don't think so. She decided she retired.
Yeah, she was just planning to retire.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it. And then she finally sent me an email and she copied Katie on it. And she said, deal with Katie. And so I'll be sending in the November minutes have been approved. I'll be sending them in. And then I just sent out the January minutes today. So I just asked for comments within a week, and then I'll forward those too, and then we'll be up to date. The only other issue I wanted to bring up was the website, and we've been trying for a long time to get the website updated, our section of it, unsuccessfully. And I was just wondering, John, if you knew if anything is going on with that in terms of the township, or if there's anybody working on that.
Gosh, Monica might be the person to coordinate that with right now. Unfortunately, I have not been directly involved. I was part of the redesign a couple of years ago and kind of cleaned things up. But no, I have not. I haven't seen anything since. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because ours is really out of date. We have several deceased people still on there.
Ooh.
An old mission statement. I mean, we just have so many things that we've tried. I've sent in new documents and everything, and nothing's gotten updated. But I don't want to, the way things are now with COVID and everything, I don't want to, make a big deal about it. But I just would like to, at some point,
Well, and there could be open records requests too. We have to abide, so the documentation should be there if it's required, so.
Right. Right. Okay, so I will send Monica and Jean, will you remind me if I don't, I'm going to send Monica an email about that and keep after me. So, and then we'll get some updates. Hopefully probably by now we'll have to redo our update. So I'll be sending it around to everyone. Okay, so I don't have anything else. And if it's all right with all of you, we'll adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
David,
Bye.